Hi everyone, welcome to LogiSense Billing Introduction. Today we're going to take a few minutes and we're going to talk about LogiSense Billing and how it might be used in our everyday lives. Almost all of us here today have a cell phone. We subscribe to some kind of subscription service, whether it's Amazon Prime or Netflix, or some kind of B2B service for your business like Salesforce, HubSpot, or even AWS services. Many of us also have some kind of smart device or smart connected devices, whether it's like a smartwatch or GPS type device. And what all of these products and services have in common is the fact that vendors usually bill for them on a usage basis. There's some kind of usage elements to all those products and services, whether it's how many gigabytes you have in your cell phone plan or the amount of data you're downloading into your GPS for mapping and storage. It could also be the consumption of how much compute you've been doing on AWS or the number of Lambda functions you have or storage and resources in S3. Any of those things can be used as a usage-based product or service. LogiSense gives you the ability to use our technology to enable companies such as those that I've mentioned to implement usage-based pricing or consumption-based pricing models and help a go-to-market effort with those models. And then we bill for it. We take those services and the revenue, we collect them, we invoice them, and we give you usage-based billing elements that rival other companies like Cisco Systems, Garmin, Five9, Vonage, and many others who are using usage-based elements in billing with LogiSense. What we're going to do here is we're going to talk a little bit about some of the go-to-market models that are gaining popularity both in B2B and B2C markets. And we're even going to talk about even some of the emerging elements in AI and how vendors are trying to monetize those services, even on how you're prompting the AI utilities or using their intelligence, not just a simple subscription. We'll also in this video walk through how a business can take advantage of using competitive usage-based monetization models through the LogiSense billing platform. Some of the key features in the system we're going to show you. And we're also going to look at how easy it is to integrate with existing platforms in your quote to cash process, whether that's Salesforce or other CRMs and CPQs, as well as financial systems and ERP systems. We'll show you competitive pricing models and monetization options. We'll talk about how you can prevent revenue leakage and automate some of the financial processes that you have in a billing cycle. And we'll help you understand how to reduce costs, improve customer experience, retention, and satisfaction overall. So let's take you through the LogiSense billing platform. Okay, as we dive into the LogiSense billing platform, one of the things that's important to talk about are pricing models and the markets that we serve. And when you're thinking of this, you want to look at what type of things generate some kind of usage element and how do I price those elements to my consumers? These pricing models could be simple, from a perpetual license that you sell one time to a subscription, to what we're seeing as consumption hybrid models where there's some kind of usage included, to a pure pay-as-you-go model where you're paying for every single thing you use like AWS and how they do their compute services. These industries typically are spread all throughout, whether you're in finance, whether you're selling some kind of X as a service, whether in IoT or communications, or you're in media. Everyone is taking part in moving towards some kind of usage-based consumption model, and we're seeing that. LogiSense billing platform allows you to take that usage and all of the pricing flexibility that you may have in either that B2B market or B2C market and support that. And what we're going to do next is we're going to walk through what does it look like when we're working with, say, a B2B model in that sales-led process where we have some quoting. We'll dive into that in the next couple sections, and we'll see how you can take that and load it into our platform. And we'll walk the day in the life of a salesperson. We'll walk the day in the life of the person running billing or administering the account. We'll walk the day in the life of a customer. So let's take a look at that. We'll go into a demo. Okay, this is demo time. So we're going to start out here and we're going to take a look at how do we start out the process of selling all of these usage-based consumption services or anything else that you want to, the LogiSense billing can help with. And for a lot of companies that are selling in a B2B market or a sales-led process, being able to run through like a CRM or CPQ process like Salesforce is an important integration that we support. In here, I'm going to show you a quick little tour of what happens inside Salesforce, how some of our connections work, and what some of the processes are and how we interact. If we look at this on the screen I have here, I'm in a CPQ system in Salesforce. I have an account that's already been created. I've created an opportunity. Now, one of the great things that Salesforce does is let you create whatever business process you want. And how LogiSense works is say, we take those order details, we can help supply the product information, but we make sure that they are decomposed into the billing platform so we can capture the right usage, do the pricing appropriately, create the right invoices, and the overall experience to the customer is seamless, at the same time as supporting the sales teams with other initiatives that I'll talk to you about in a second. So on my screen here, I have a simple quote. It's been generated for 3 different types of products. One of them is an annual license, simple subscription. One is some kind of data consumption that's going to be a drawdown element of a prepaid fund that I can use anything, just like if you were prepaying for AWS services. And the other is a little bit of usage, a hybrid model, where I have some commitment to have, say, 10 gigs of data, very similar to your cell phone plan. These are very common types of product offerings that we see supported within our customer base and in the market. The CPQ system allows you to build these out, put them in a quote, get the customer to sign off it, and follow any flow that you have. If at any point in time, the customer signed off on that, as soon as we close this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to push this into LogiSense. We're going to take that detail and we're going to show you what happens. And that'll be in the next section. But before I leave this, I want to talk about some of the ways that we connect into Salesforce and what else you can do here. What we've created is an app that sits in the App Exchange that can tie in directly to Salesforce. And this gives sales teams insights into what's going on with usage-based consumption models that are happening within LogiSense Billing and that customer's platform. This dashboard allows them to see customers and what type of consumption models they have, commitments, hybrid models, and what the actual usage is doing towards those. It'll show us whether that customer is under-committing to where they should be based on plan or over-committing and using more usage than they should have. It gives the salesperson an ability to go and adjust the customer to the right plan on a B2B or a sales-led motion. There's a lot of automation that we can add in that we'll talk about a little bit in the product as well. We'll talk that when I show you more of the LogiSense billing system. But this dashboard gives you insights, again, to help you manage your customers, their expectation on how they adapt to usage, and where they go from there. It also gives more oversight into financial teams and sales leaders as to how usage is trending through the system. Do we see volumes growing or shrinking? What does the revenue look like? And what's more importantly, how do we stop revenue leakage and give people notifications of what's going on? We put some of these metrics directly into the Salesforce dashboard so we can show you when there's critical events happening. It gives the teams a central place to look and manage their customers and see what's going on above and beyond a simple type of subscription when you're moving towards usage-based pricing. So now that we've kind of taken this customer, we've gone through, we'll push through this quote and we'll jump into LogiSense and we'll take a look at what's next. If we look at the products and services that were bought based on that order or quote that was accepted by the customer, we see those licenses, usage-based service, wallets, and consumption drawdown have been brought into the system. So we know the counts and quantities of what the customers agreed to buy. We also know all the pricing elements that are going to be part of that, whether those are usage-based pricing or whether they're recurring or non-recurring based elements. All of the pricing has been flowed down. Individual orders or purchases will be brought in. If you have something more complex like you do sometimes in the B2B space where you've negotiated contract pricing or new product pricing in your catalog that can be consumed through self-service or additional orders in the future, we have ways of servicing that data into the platform as well. And that we would call our price plans. It gives you the ability to take a look at a customer at any point in time, see what they have been given as additional things above and beyond the standard pricing, and allow you to see how that has been changed across the board. That'll include any of the recurring, non-recurring, include any usage elements that you may have as well, and any elements that you want to, from a pricing perspective, give on a special basis. That can propagate through any hierarchy of account structure that you have on that customer as well. In addition, some contracts that you generate through a sales process and use in a CPQ have some kind of commitments, whether it's a ramping schedule of things that they have to commit to over a period of time and the number of quantities or the amount of data they process, or it may be other elements that you're looking at from the total revenue spent. Our contract commitments allow us to enforce that so that no one is looking through spreadsheets or going in and trying to figure out who's following the line of their contract or not. We want to automate rules for finance and from the sales process being approved all the way into billing and invoices being output. So we give you the ability to take those contract details and bring them into the system. And you can create any number of contract commitments, whether it's, again, around the invoice amounts, products or services, and the quantities or dollar spend that you need to, or the type of usage that you must consume. So for example, here in year one, I make sure that you have a ramp for the first 6 months where you're doing at least 1 gigabyte of data every month. If you're under that, we will charge you $1.50 for every gig that you're under. And you can make these values whatever you need to. We also have a number of subscriptions or licenses that they have to have. And we've set a quantity 10. If they're under that, we can top them up at a per unit price. These can then transition over from year one to year two and on whatever schedule you want. They can have different pricing throughout the year, and you can make changes to this on the fly as needed. And lastly, for a customer that's using a more advanced usage-based model like we support, where it's some kind of consumption drawdown, you want to give them pay-as-you-go pricing, but commit them to revenue upfront. You can use things like our share plans that allow you to sell a pool of usage that can be used across any of your services, and they can be applied at any point in time. Now, in this world, this is where things in the day of life start to change. The order's been contracted, your services have been fulfilled. We're now letting the systems run. Your platform as a customer, let's say your AWS, is running. My services are using usage there. They're doing compute. The system starts telling me what's going on. LogiSense can start now giving you insights into what's going on. So as we look at what this customer has consumed with the usage that's flowing through, we can get a real-time view of that, again, through our APIs or through this interface as to what their current allocation was, how much should they prepay, and where are they at. And usage will continue to flow through in real time as needed through our system. And customers can see that and make changes to it at any point in time. As we kind of take one step back now, we're going to talk a little bit next about what happens from a billing person's administration point of view. How do we automate some of the processes and make sure that there is no revenue leakage? We simplify the steps so that teams aren't spending hours or days to get bills out the door and customers can remain happy. So let's take a look at the next part here. Okay, so for this next section, what happens from a billing administrator's point of view or a finance team? They want to look at two things, and LogiSense Billing helps them with that. The first is, how do we get usage-based data into the system so no one has to deal with this manually? The second is, how do they automate their billing process from generating charges, making invoices, sending those invoices out to customers, collecting payments, running dunning or AR processes, and automate all of those workflows and integrate into the ERP. So let's take a look at the usage side first. When you've introduced usage-based pricing, your system needs to be able to support that. And LogiSense Billing natively does that. We don't require other third parties or developers to go build special services for you to make it adapt or fit to your current billing platform. What we want to do is we want to be able to give you a tool that you can do with no code. You can go in here and configure what your data looks like using this visual editor. You can go ahead and map how your data is going to be structured into ours. And the complexities are going to be as simple as like an Excel-like formula. So if you've written a formula in Excel, you can probably configure your own usage profile to be able to start bringing in data from your platforms and start monetizing it. There's ways that we can extend this out to do very complex things. We have call-outs for that. And definitely that helps support some cases in our market, but most of our customers can be able to implement these very easily with a no-code approach. Whenever usage comes into the system, we give you traceability. The platform will allow you to see what is going on with the usage, what happened to it, what was made up in that usage, were there any exceptions, were there any problems, how do I fix them, how do I address them? So we give you an exception management capability so you can avoid any revenue leakage and you can trace all of your usage events back from the start. We also give you the ability to process other types of exceptions when there's a price missing in the catalog or some other element hasn't been assigned to the right customer. So those elements are going to also be present in our exceptions tooling to give you, again, complete revenue leakage protection when you're starting to work with usage. Once we've got usage flowing through the system, we got to get ready for billing. And those bill runs can happen on demand. They can be scheduled however you need to. But there's some key elements. As part of the automation process, We want to allow you to set up how your runs work and how much you want to automate and when you want to automate them. You could be as simple as generating all of the charges and creating the invoices so that we can use our webhooks or subscription event notifications to send you updates or reports when this process is done. We'll work with another system like your ERP, or work with an auditing process that we can define within a workflow to be able to do checks and balances before we go on to producing any charges for contract violations, sending out the invoices out to the customer, or collecting payments from one of hundreds of payment providers that we support within the platform. You can also go ahead and use this option here to run a dunning process so that when customers who are on invoice terms have overdue invoices, we can talk about how we can start to send them email notifications, connect into your platform to maybe throttle, turn down, or suspend service, or start charging additional late fees, change their life cycle and notifications, integrate back into our CRM or ERP system, and invoke other people like sales agents to get involved. All of that can be automated as far as the billing process goes. In order to lead in with satisfaction and customer happiness, and we have all of this data going through the billing process, we want to look at one additional thing. How do the finance teams or product teams or those automating a billing process make sure the customers have the best view of that information? And there's two ways of doing that. One is going to be through the invoice template that you supply to them. In this invoice template, you can create as many of them as you want, but we have a rich tagging process that allows us to identify any element of data within our system and put that on the invoice in many ways. If you can define a report of data, if you've ever built a report in any other platform, you can pick and choose the fields that are important to you and how you want to measure them. Those data can be either attached to the invoice to be displayed in the invoice or sent as a supplemental report. And you can define those however you need to and on different variations of the invoice templates. We'll finally go into taking a look now at what a customer sees. How do they interact with billing information? What options do they have? What things can you do to also facilitate them? And as we lead into that, the last two reminders I want to talk about are the platform itself, again, is an API-first platform that does allow you to connect into other workflow processes that we have available to us, as well as talk to your external platform or other third-party platforms through either our notification processes that happen as processes occur, like the charges are generated, a customer interacts with something. So we call those our event subscriptions. We also have the ability, when you're dealing with usage-based pricing, to allow some self-control back to the customer, to allow you to communicate how usage is going with your customer. That example we looked at with Targa that had the $10,000 consumption, they may want to know when they're 50% of the way through that spend. So we're going to give you options to be able to do that. So you can go ahead and you can create rules within our products and services that allow you to define what type of notifications occur, who receives those notifications, and how are they going to be sent out, whether it's email or interactions through another platform. So if we look at kind of some of our consumption drawdown elements and how our buckets work, we may want to look at the notification process. And you can see here I've defined one that at 50%, there's going to be an email that goes out to the billing contact on Targa Resources, our customer here, to let them know that they've reached that threshold. You can create as many of these notifications as you want. We can have customers do self-modifications so they can set their own threshold limits. And you can also reach out to other systems. Let's take a look now what happens from a customer's perspective. How do they interact with you? How do they remain satisfied and happy? Okay, let's take a look now at the customer's perspective. So LogiSense provides an API-first platform that can easily integrate with your existing customer portal. We also have a customer portal that we can give you to provide insights to your customer where you don't have one. The customer is also going to have their invoice template. We're going to take a look at a little bit more detail of what that invoice looks like and what information is possible to show, so you can see the type of messaging and information to make it really clear to them what are they using of your services and why should they pay for them. How do you make that process happy and make it easier on your finance and billing administrators? So from a customer portal perspective, simple things like where they are in their account balance, what products and services that they have with you, and what those pricing elements look like, maybe their invoices, and potentially if you're offering usage-based pricing, What does their usage look like? Where are they at? Can I download all of the details of it versus just a summary of where I'm at in my spend? If we took a look at one of the invoices, for example, we want to be able to see that invoice is going to show us rich information, show us details, maybe marketing messages that you want to present, maybe some other additional information, but summarize the invoice. Where are their charges being made up? What products and services are offering? What periods are they paying for? The quantities, the rates. You may even want to create some things and breaking your charges down between recurring, non-recurring, fees, usage, commitments, where they're at with the commitment, and so forth. You can break down anything you want. And this is an easy to do template that allows you to control the look, the feel, the information, and make it as unique as possible to your customer. If we could take one step back now, how do we make sure this is happy? We want to make sure that the customer is paying their bills on time, providing those insights into the usage through those notifications that we talked about earlier, providing details around the invoice template and what you see, and also providing access through the API so the customer can see that in your customer portal are very important key aspects. So let's just have a quick little overview of this process. We started out with a really simple description of what LogiSense does, how we support some of the common things you use every day from a billing perspective for services that have some kind of usage-based consumption model, right, or consumption-based billing. We talked about how we can work with sales teams in their CRM and CPQ process to have full automation into our platform. We talked about how billing teams can ensure that their billing processes are automated, they're simplified, they connect into all of the other third-party systems that they have, whether it's their enterprise finance platforms, whether it's internal platforms, or we can talk about how teams are actually taking data into the system and making use of that to be able to introduce these usage-based pricing. And what are some of the special things that customers really want of that, like the notifications or the drawdown or the share plans, with real-time insights into where you are at any point in time. As quickly as you can send us the data, we can process it. Meaning we don't have to wait till the end of the month to figure out that you overspent your budget. We don't have to wait till the end of the month to figure out that you're going to be spending a huge amount in overage. Finance teams, CFOs, other leaders want to be in control of what's happening with their products and services they consume from you. And if you're offering usage-based services, we want to make sure that's available. That's a key aspect for us. The second part is we want to use our tooling, like our invoice template and our connectivity into other platforms, to ensure that customers and systems are always in sync and they're getting the right message. A proper invoice template that you define can make all the difference between the customer understanding what they've gotten from you and what you're going to be getting as far as questions back to your finance and billing teams. And then making sure you have the tools around revenue leakage, reporting, and everything else that you see on the screen here to be able to tie in all of the aspects of what a billing platform should provide. So thanks for your time. It's given you a little quick introduction into kind of who uses us, how it's used, and how it flows through that chain of what is often termed quote to cash or quote to revenue. And I thank you for your time.